All right, everyone. And a hush fell over the crowd. Kind of. Welcome, welcome. First, I'll ask if you brought your cell phone to put it on silent, please, or vibrate. Welcome, everyone. It is so exciting to have all of you here. We thought we might be speaking to an empty auditorium today with the weather. So thank you for braving the storm. I know it was probably tempting to be on the couch, staying cozy, but we are so glad you're here and we hope you won't regret your decision. This is the place to be this afternoon. Welcome to session 3 of Death by Design. I am Caroline Riskowich, one of the Health Services Navigators, and we will be speaking today, what happens after death? What do loved ones, care managers, the people who knew me or worked with me or worked at Croasdale, what do those loved ones or people in my life do after my death? After I speak, we'll have Kim Brookso and our awesome chaplain, Laurie Hayes Kaufman. So you are in for a treat. Thank you so much for coming. Death has a very Black reputation, but actually, to die is a perfectly normal thing to do. And it's so wholesome, being a very important part of nature's big picture. Trees die, don't they? And flowers. Again, the objective of Death by Design is to present information and experiences to all of you about end of life, so that Croasdale Village residents can have the tools and the knowledge to create an end of life journey that is open, honest, and as stress-free as possible. We didn't say completely stress-free, but as stress-free as possible. If we take the time to do this planning, we can be fully present during the end of life, which can be a special moment. Raise your hand if you were here a couple of days ago for the supplementary session on Wednesday. Awesome. I think that those documentaries and that TED Talk did a really good job of addressing this beauty that can be found at the end of life. The one gentleman who said, "This has been the best 2 weeks of my entire life." And then he passed away. Today, we will look at what can be done with your body and options on how you may want to be memorialized. So, like I said, we are in week 3. Thank you so much to all of you for sticking with us. This coming Wednesday, we'll have a very special supplementary session. It is our Death Expo, our End of Life Expo. We will have 15 different booths set up in this auditorium, hosted by experts in the field of grief and dying. We'll have the Cremation Society, some funeral homes, grief counselors, hospice, palliative care. We'll have someone from Aquamation and Green Burial You will learn a lot. So please come. You can drop by anytime between 2 o'clock and 3:30. And this is open to the entire Crowsdale community. So bring a friend, even if they're not signed up for this program, and we will see you then. The next Friday, we will have 2 experts on VSED, VSED, voluntary stopping eating and drinking. This is a wonderful presentation, and they've allotted a lot of time for question and answer at the end. We'll have the Death Cafe that I mentioned in week 1. We'll have an additional sign up. I'll talk about that in a minute. And on our last Friday session, we'll be hearing from an estate planning attorney. What happens to my stuff after death? Our final supplementary session will be hosted by resident Jane Hoover, and we'll be writing legacy letters. Like I mentioned, those last 2 supplemental sessions do require an additional sign up. You can sign up at the Life Enrichment Counter on October 5th. We'll have that sign up sheet out. A special note again, like we mentioned a couple weeks ago, there is a special collection of books and DVDs in the Crowsdale Library, specifically put out for this program. So thank you to the Drusidos and the entire library staff, as well as Judith Moore for putting that together. I saw someone had already checked out being mortal. So I'm glad people are doing their homework. This coming Sunday, October 2nd, the movie Lucky will be playing here at 6 p.m. This is about a lonely 90-year-old atheist who is meditating on his death. It's a delicate reflection on loneliness and mortality, and it fits in perfectly to this series. So on a rainy Sunday night, come on down for a movie and think about death. What more could you want? On Monday, October 3rd, the TED Talk that day will be about death doulas and green burials. So thank you so much to the movie program and the TED Talk program for joining in on this thematic journey with us as we hear a lot of different perspectives. So I wanted to touch one more time on the Death by Design webpage. Who has been to that website? Okay, thank you. Good. Let's have more hands next week when I ask that. But I wanted to quickly show you how it works. If I can navigate these cords here. So you'll go to Vibrant. And if you're here on campus, yes, it will take a while to load. This is an authentic representation. And you will log in. Oh, Laurie, can we log into your Vibrant? Uh-oh, she said yes. Let's see if her transportation requests got accepted or whatever. Ooh, uh-oh. All right, I'll log into mine. This is also an authentic representation of you not getting into Vibrant the first time. Oh, she has a new password. Let's see if she remembers it. Let's see, drum roll, please.
If you submit again, it'll come through.
I want it to show the little thing at the bottom.
We really wanted to build some suspense. Come on, come on. Just hit login one more time. Here it comes. Hooray! Thank you, Laurie. Round of applause, please. A smattering of applause. All right. When you go to Vibrant, on this home page that says announcements, you'll see our logo, the Death by Design tree. Fun fact, that is a custom graphic design by Laurie Hayes Kaufman's husband, who is an artist and designed that tree for us, which I think is really beautiful. If you click on this tree itself, or right here where it says click here, it will take you to this Death by Design website. So you know you're in the right place if you see the tree. Here we have the entire schedule on the homepage. So you can always look here for a reminder of what's coming up. I want to point out these tabs in the top right. Here we have resources. There is a lot of great information on this website. We have the checklist, which is a big packet that we'll be giving you at the end, but you can also print your own. The movie list, bibliography. We've got articles. All you have to do is click and you'll see the links. So if you wanted to see the Death by Design checklist, you would just click and you would say, and it would open up right here. So this is a 20-page checklist that is a really invaluable resource. You will all get it for free, but next year we're charging, so get it while you can. Just kidding. But this website has a ton of additional resources. One thing people have asked about a lot is how they can see the presentations. So we also have this presentations tab where you can see the slides from that week. So that's just the static slides that you could click through, a digital version of that packet you got when you walked in. Or if you click here, you can see a recording of the actual session. I highly recommend that one. You can hear our voices, see our faces. That is how you see the video of the presentation. I want to note that this is a great site to share with family or estate planners or anyone in your life who might want to know about this program, loved ones or anyone that you're working with who might want to learn some about this. You can just copy the URL, even if they don't have access to Vibrant. You can just copy the web address and then paste it to them in an email, and they can also see this site. It's a public website. If you have any questions about that, please do not hesitate to let me know, and I can help you through that. Okay. Let me get back to where we were. That is an overview on the Death by Design link, which you can access on Vibrant. So, what do loved ones do after my death? What can you expect in this session, apart from a rip-roaring good time? You can learn what happens immediately after death, what can be done with a body, and how one might prepare for a memorial. So you did not know that when you were coming today, you would be seeing the world's premiere of 2 movies that are in talks for early Academy Awards. You did not know that there was some staff here who also dabbles in incredible acting. I mean, I'm speechless, really. These videos are also going to be shared on that Death by Design website I just showed you. I do want to give a disclaimer that we have to manually type the subtitles and closed captions, and I haven't finished that yet. So these do not have captions, but I think you'll still be able to get the spirit of the movie. And when I upload them on the website, they will have captions. So thank you for your patience on that. And without further ado, kick back and relax for the 6-minute feature film, Oh My, Mom is Dead. Yes, I understand. I'm so sorry about Jane. Well, you know, she told me that she had 2 more years in her.
I have a list of resources here. I have some information on local funeral homes. I have some information on cremation. I even have some information on burials and operation. Oh my gosh, operation? My mom has some real fire, she did like furnaces. She was very free. Which one of those options is cheapest? Probably cremation is the least expensive. That's the one where they put you in a furnace. My mom, she did not like that. She didn't like fire. Oh my gosh, this is my brother again. He says that we should do cremation because it's the least expensive, and of course he's gonna pay for it. But I'm telling you, I don't think that's what my mom would want. If that happens, how? Wow, it sounds like you have a lot of different considerations at play here. Again, I have these resources. I think you should call them and ask more detailed questions and ask what's involved. And if you need me, please don't hesitate to call. As your navigator, I'm here for you. I'm Laurie, I'm the chaplain. I'm so sorry to be lost everyone. Did a memorial service for one of my mom's friends. Are you here to talk about the memorial service? Actually, you've got plenty of time to plan a memorial service, and I'm more than happy to help you when you get ready to plan that. I'm really just here to see how you're doing. And honestly, I have no idea. Should I contact people, let me know when I'll die? Should I contact? Not much of Uncle George. And Uncle George didn't want to hurt either. They had this thing where they were like, hey, who's gonna do something first? But she's died first. So maybe she would like to have a little right there. She did that first. We can put a memorial picture up and let the people in the village know that's one way for the top. But a picture, I need a picture. Oh my gosh. So that memorial is out in the chapel. Are we gonna do a memorial service in that chapel? Does it need to be in the chapel? Yeah, that is perfectly up to you, and I'm glad to work with you. However, it can be in the chapel, it can be a gravesite, or there are places that were special to your mom that you feel more comfortable with. You know, she liked that CNH cafeteria over at West Road. She probably were like fried chicken, she thought it was the best in the world, so much in hot light, it was so good here. That's what we did, some fried chicken. She had the best fried chicken recipe. You know, she told me, she said, if nothing else, I want to be buried with my fried chicken recipe. How do I do that? Do you do that? Did she cremate it? Do I just throw the recipe in there? It's been years. Got so many questions around now. You know, when you're ready to think through it, we can talk about hymns or scriptures or stories that were important to her. Any kind of music you like to have for the service. Oh my gosh, and scriptures, music. You know what kind of music she loved? Country music. You know what? Favorite song? Willie Nelson's Take This Job and Shove It. I mean, I don't know what to do. That's my brother. He still wants to cremate her, and now he says he wants to bury her grand next to her sister. But she actually didn't like her sister. She didn't like her. Texas. He died a long time ago. I don't even know if there's a clock there. I don't know. What should I do? Time to just take a breath and say the emergency is past and you don't have to solve everything today. But if you want to just sit down, maybe tomorrow we can think through calling and checking on the checking with your brother, thinking through the things you really value about your mom and the things that she valued. We'll find a way to honor her. This seems like an awful lot of work. And look at all this stuff, well, what am I gonna do with it? I gotta figure out, I don't know. What to do with the body. There's a lot of things to do, and this is a very upsetting situation.
So without further ado, please welcome my boss and the best actress I've ever worked with, Kim Brookso.
Oh my. Just to highlight a few things in there. Okay, so there was some conflicting values. There was some conflicting perceptions. There were children that kind of thought a little bit differently about the situation. So I think what we're going to learn today is a little bit about what the options are, and then just give you some food for thought as to what's important to you, and hope that you have that a conversation with your children. Do as much planning as possible so that you don't have the hysteria that ensued on the video. I want to talk first about just a quick note about an expected death versus an unexpected death. When we live here at a retirement community, many times death is expected. Many times we are working with hospice organizations. We are helping that journey along. There are times when we do have a sudden death, and you know, somebody's vibrant and going well one day and then passes. There is a little bit of a difference when those two situations happen. If the death is unexpected, many times you will get the medical examiner who will come to the organization, the police get involved. There may be situations where they need to take the body to a morgue to understand a little bit about what happened. And then they will release the body to family members at that point. When it's an expected death, when we have hospice involved and we are expecting it, many times the body actually goes straight from the apartment, you know, the pavilion, wherever, to the place where that person designated they want their body to go. Maybe the cremation society, the funeral home, or whatever. But just a note to let you know that there is a little distinction between an expected death and an unexpected death. Also, I want to touch on organ and tissue donation, and I also want to touch a little bit on body donation. So a couple of different things. But if you are interested in donating organ or tissue, you can get that paperwork together right now. You can visit these websites, donatelifenc.org, and that can kind of walk you through the process. Organ donation does require that a donor be alive when the organs are harvested, and that the organs are actually in fairly good shape. Tissue donation and the eye donation, it is not as imperative that somebody be alive when those organs and tissues are harvested. So it's a personal preference. Please communicate that to your family members as well, and make sure that they are aware of your wishes, so they can make sure that the people that are taking your body know that. Particularly with body donation, it's very important with a body donation that it gets properly processed quite quickly. So body donations are you can receive the UNC, Duke, and Elon are the universities around here that actually do accept body donations. And each one of them would have their own paperwork, and you can go online and pull off that paperwork. If anybody's interested, we can help you pull that paperwork off. Usually speaking, the paperwork is kept with family member or the person who would probably be there at a time of death. You can give it to Crowsdale if you're interested. When that death happens, that body needs to be examined to make sure that it is still appropriate for body donation. And if so, it needs to be taken fairly immediately to the university for preparation. And understand too that they can keep that body for up to 2 years, and then they will cremate it. They can give you those ashes back, or sometimes they, if somebody doesn't want the ashes back, the Duke will actually scatter the ashes at Duke Forest. So just to give you enough information to kind of make you think about it, there is more information online, and if you're interested, we can certainly point you in the right direction for that type of situation. And actually, I will say that in our expo on Wednesday, we are going to have Elon body donation and Duke body donation organizations both here. So you can ask further questions on Wednesday. So now I'd just like to talk a little bit about different types of ways that a body can be handled after death. We're going to start with probably the one that most of us already know is just a traditional burial. This is involving embalming, and embalming a body basically allows for people to view the body afterwards. It keeps the body viewable, and therefore, if there's an open casket, that helps that process. Caskets are also part of our traditional burial here in the United States. As I said, open or closed, they can have flags over them, or palls over them, or flowers draped over them. We often have like a funeral service in that, as we have a traditional burial, and things to think about in terms of who you would need to contact in just a traditional funeral and burial. You have an officiant, you have musicians, possibly a funeral director, you have casket or urn or vault or hearse, and I put all those in there because there's usually a price tag attached to a lot of those services, and so that kind of creeps up the price tag. All this information can be used if you are willing to just kind of sit down and say, this is how I want my service to go. And of course, there's plots for burying in cemeteries. You can prepay for that plot, and you can, also choose a headstone as well. So those are all the kinds of things that we look at just in terms of traditional burials, things that we kind of all were brought up to understand. And then came about cremation. And as we talked about in here, the cremation is typically the cheapest option in how we handle a body after death. The body is placed in a furnace that usually takes 1 to 2 hours for decomposition. And something that you may not know is that funeral homes can provide cremation, as well as the Cremation Society of North Carolina. And again, Cremation Society of North Carolina will be here on Wednesday, as well as at least one local funeral home, and maybe 2. If you're interested, the body can be viewed as it is going into the crematorium. We can divide ashes, or they can all be placed in one single urn. This is actually a picture of a necklace, and there are several different varieties of things like this out there, where you can put some ashes from somebody and who's special to you and hold them close to your heart. And of course, there's the spreading of ashes. And again, as you kind of think about what's important to you, maybe the spreading of ashes in a certain place might be something that, would be something important to you. A quick note about traditional Jewish burials, or sometimes you can do a kind of a natural burial where somebody is buried quite quickly. This is a little more ecologically friendly than embalming somebody. There are some down aspects to our traditional burial, whereby the embalming of somebody and the caskets or the cement vaults are not very nice to our environment. So a traditional Jewish burial or a quick burial will help to alleviate some of that. It does need to be done within 24 hours of death, but in a traditional Jewish burial, that body is washed, they're wrapped in a shroud, and laid to rest in a simple wood coffin. Now, what is a green burial? Again, green burial means there's no embalming. Okay, and embalming has a lot of toxic chemicals to it, and so as that body decomposes, those toxic chemicals get into the earth. It also does not involve burning or incinerating, and it does not involve burying in concrete vaults. And all three of those are said to not necessarily be very good for our environment. So in a green burial, we are placing the body in a biodegradable container. Sometimes it's actually just wrapped in a cloth. Other times it's just a very small light pine box, and buried in a designated green burial area. And we actually have, I think, 11 green burial areas in the state of North Carolina. The interesting thing about a green burial area is that they actually test the soil and they make sure that it is optimal for decomposition of a body. They will place that body 3 to 4 feet under the ground and space the bodies out in this type of situation. And then the decomposition is very natural. People feel like it goes, that, we go back into earth this way. It does take several years, up to 25 years, for that decomposition to happen. These green burial areas are very picturesque and very beautiful. And ceremonies that are held there, people often maybe have to walk through the woods, but it can be a very, very beautiful and peaceful way to kind of memorialize somebody, to kind of bury them maybe under a tree or in a meadow or in a field. You can put a beautiful, rock on the top. You can plant a tree that's going to be there for years and years. You can plant flowers on that grave. So there are a lot of different things that can be done with green burial. And we do have somebody from a local green burial called Blue Stem Cemetery, located here in Cedar Grove, that will be represented on Wednesday in our expo. So if you have further questions about that, that's a great opportunity to come and talk to them about what that entails, how much it is, how you sign up, things like that. And the last one I want to really talk about is aquamation. And it's probably a fairly new way to decompose of a body, also known as alkaline hydrolysis. Basically what it is immersing a body into a water alkali solution and then putting that into a pressurized metal cylinder and heating that up. This takes about, I think, a couple hours to decompose the body, but it is actually probably the most environmentally friendly and option at this point. There are no fossil fuels that are burned, no emissions. With cremation, there are a lot of fossil fuels and emissions that are admitted into the environment. And what that leaves you actually are ashes, very similar to cremation. And those ashes can be put in an urn. They can be put in, several urns, however you would like them. So, oops, next one. So we actually have a new organization that just opened up in Hillsborough, and they're called the Enswell Water Cremation and Urn Gallery. When I say new, they actually aren't open for business probably until the end of October, but they have agreed to also come to our expo on the 5th of October. So another place where we can actually ask some questions and understand a little bit more about that process. I love the fact that they are very local, and so we can certainly utilize them. We had been actually reaching out to a place in Wilmington, which we thought was actually the closest aquamation organization. And then we found that, boom, here we are right in Hillsborough. We've got somebody that's doing this service. So, all right. I want to hand this mic over to Lori Kaufman at this time, and she is going to talk to you about ceremonies.
So we began this session by asking what happens after you die. Well, I've been asking my grandchildren that question. Maya is 4 years old, and when I showed her the information about Queen Elizabeth dying, she says, "So did she just go to sleep and then go and quit breathing? And was there a lot of blood?" And I said, "I don't think there was a lot of blood, and I didn't want to scare her about going to sleep. I think that she just quit breathing and then was just very still and quiet." And then my 7-year-old grandson, Javi, and his brother, Teo, went to the funeral for one of their babysitter's uncles. And the priest there kind of lambasted the community about getting saved before this is your plight or else you won't go to heaven. And their mother asked them what they thought about that. And Javi at 7 said, "When you die, you become part of the earth. What's to worry about that?" And the 10-year-old Teo said, "Well, of course, everyone goes to heaven. Doesn't the priest know that? People go there. Our dog went there. Everybody goes to heaven." So there you have 3 possibilities. You just quit breathing, or you go back to the earth, or you go to heaven along with your dogs. So what happens after death? If you've got other ideas, please let me know. What do your loved ones do after you die? They grieve, and they might be relieved if they've been spending a lot of energy caring for you. And they begin to plan for how they're going to live after you've died. And there might be some rejoicing and some remembrance and some laughter and some tears all mixed together. And they probably play out all of their family dynamics. Everything that they ever did as siblings, as little kids, gets played out in planning for what next. Everything that ever happened interpersonally in the family probably gets writ large. So the work that we're doing here is to make it as easy as possible for people simply to grieve and let go and celebrate, and to find some measure of hope. One of the ways we do that is to have a formal ceremony of remembrance. Some people call it a funeral. Others say, oh, that sounds too grim and dark. I want people to wear colorful flowers and tell jokes. Other people say, call it a memorial service and we'll tell stories. Others say, call it a celebration of life, and we want it to be a joyful time of letting go and rejoicing and gathering with friends and family again. Whatever you call it, it's important to have some kind of a ritual of closure. We do rituals of passage throughout our lives. When a baby's born, we gather and have a shower, or we bring casseroles, or we offer boxes of diapers. When there's a birthday, that's a ritual of passage as well. We love to celebrate birthdays, a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, a confirmation, things that are sort of like a ritual of passage, of taking on a more adult role in life. We gather the family, we have a special meal, we go to religious services, we inquire of the young person, what does this mean to you? And how have you prepared for it? And what's next? Graduation, we want to signal that. And the same thing, we gather our community, we send out invitations, we receive gifts, we offer well wishes for what has been done and what will come. Weddings, retirements, all kinds of places in our life where we realize that ritual is important. It pulls us together. It helps us look back at what we've accomplished. It helps us point forward to whatever comes next. It binds us to each other, and we take pictures and we keep memories of those times. And yet, increasingly, I am hearing children of Crosdale residents, when I call to inquire about how they're doing after the death of a parent, saying, oh, we don't need a chaplain. We're not doing a service. Nah. And I just want to say, I'm not here like that priest to be sure that you get saved. That's not ever my agenda. I'm not here to foist anything on you or to sell you anything, but I do think that rituals are important. And so I will inquire, oh, you've decided not to do any type of a closing ritual. Can you tell me more about that? And I'll hear things like, yeah, it costs too much. Or, oh, my dad was an introvert. He wouldn't like all that fuss about him. Or, well, my family lives abroad and they're not here, so no, we couldn't do it. Or mama outlived all of her best friends, so nobody would come anyway. Or, well, maybe we'll just wait until the other parent passes and then we'll get a 2-for-1, or, you know. So I hear lots of reasons why people don't want to do it. One person even said, I know what they thought about me in life, and I don't want them to come together and eat chicken and talk about me behind my back. So don't do it. I would like to encourage you to plan for your family to have some kind of a service of remembrance, of celebration, of letting go, of closure, of community. And if it's not for your children, because you may not have children, or for your spouse, you may not have a spouse, then do it for your Crosdale friends. Because heaven knows that when anyone departs the Crosdale community, we all grab our heart. We all look at that table and say, oh, I wish I'd known her better. Oh, I was wondering what happened to him. Do you mean they're gone? We were their bridge partner. We ate with them on Thursday nights. I used to walk to the lake with him. You know, we need an opportunity to say goodbye to one another. And so a funeral or a memorial service, it's not just for the one who died. It's for all of us. And I would really like to encourage you to do it. Because here's what can happen at a celebration of life or a memorial service. A community gathers. Reminiscences get shared. Traditions of a family get handed on and passed on to next generations. People are able to say goodbye and bless you. People have a chance to say, that person was important to me because this is something she left in my heart that's going to live on. People get a chance to grieve. Maybe they need to cry and they hadn't had a chance to do that yet. Maybe they need to laugh because they've done too much crying already. It's an opportunity for the values of that lifetime to be shared. And sometimes people will walk away going, I wish I'd known them better. We could have been such good friends. Or I never knew that she believed in that or was invested in that organization or had an interest in these things. Oh, I wish I could have those conversations now. So, and another great thing is I often will hear families with their small children, grandchildren, saying, this child never really got to know my parent, but now they'll have memories. They'll have the stories that others have told them. And someday, years and years hence, they will hand those stories down to their children and their children. And so it becomes a way of binding together the generations and the legacies and the value system of a family. I hope you will have some kind of a ritual. So what do you call it? Well, it could be a funeral if there is a body or ashes there, a casket, an urn, a box. It could be a memorial service if there is no body and no casket and no urn and no memorial, no bodily remains present. Doesn't matter. It can be called a celebration of life. There can be viewing or no viewing. We've had open caskets before a service and then it's closed as the service begins. Some people will have a viewing the night before or the day before at a funeral home if somebody wants to be able to go and say a final farewell. You can notify people by calling them, by inviting them, by the table where we put the notice out there. You can get it into a public announcement through a funeral home. They will post a notice in the newspaper so that if there are people that you used to work with at Duke or IBM or something, they've gotten word of it and they'll know when the service is to be had. You can send out a group email to folks and say, please share with your friends, or would you tell the other folks in the office? So there are ways of getting that word out, whether it's soon or late. Yep, let's look at the next slide. What to call it? There you go. A place to have it. Well, you have a chapel right here in your home, and that chapel is free for you. So those who say, funeral costs too much. No, it doesn't. You don't have to pay the funeral home. You can carry the urn yourself. You don't have to pay the preacher. They give me a salary. You don't have to put flowers in there. It's okay if there's no flowers. You don't have to pay a musician. You can bring your daughter who plays piano or violin or whatever. If you want to hire the musician that we use in our in the chapel, I can line that up for you. And yes, you would want to pay a professional musician who comes to do it. But a funeral does not have to cost money. You can offer to feed the folks before or after. That might cost a little bit, but that's not an obligation either. So please don't let cost get in your way. So for location, yes, View Chapel is always open. We've done many a funeral in there. We've also done funerals in this room, and we've done graveside services, and we've gone to columbariums, and local churches and synagogues and mosques have funerals. And when Selma's husband died, it was during COVID, we couldn't gather publicly, so she had a funeral in her apartment and asked a rabbi to come and play guitar and sing and offer Hebrew prayers just for the family there in the apartment. So a funeral can take place anywhere, even C&H cafeteria if you want it. I haven't done one there, but so who will preside? Anybody can. I see families struggling to think they need to do all of that by themselves. But if that's their wish, they can. I can help. I can keep the flow of it going and then allow the family to participate as they want to without feeling like it's all on them. A local clergy person can come in and do it. A friend of a family who's accustomed to keeping a group organized and keeping the flow going could do it. You can do it at a funeral home and ask the funeral director to do it. It can be as religious or non-religious as suits the person and suits the family's needs, but it is nice to have somebody lined up to do it. Okay. So what would you do if you were going to have a memorial service, a celebration of life, a funeral, or whatever you would like to call it? Well, you might tell stories, you might reminisce, and that's something you might want to write down, either include some of the chapters from your memoirs class or jot down a handful of ideas that you hope people will remember about you, telling them where you worked, what organizations you were involved in, where you lived, what you valued, what was important, what made you laugh, what are you most proud of, what do you wish for them? You might like to put out some memorabilia. Here's a memory box that might have some treasures in it that you could show them. You might put out photographs. You might put up little things like this. This says Ruth, Queen of the Water Babies from 2000 to 2016. Does anybody remember Ruth? Okay. Well, it's nice to be remembered. It's nice to have memorabilia out there. You can set up a little family altar with pictures and scrapbooks and gadgets and trinkets and travel mementos and things like that. Things that will have stories attached to it and folks can talk about it. We're planning a service for next week where the 4 grandchildren are each going to bring one object from the family heirlooms and present it near the urn with a story attached to it as they make that part of their presentation. I did a funeral one time for a grandfather of children who were all deaf, and their mother was doing American Sign Language, translating what I was saying to the children. So the whole funeral was essentially the children's message at the altar as I held things up that were precious to the grandfather and told the story about them and let the kids play with that as I told them the stories. And everybody else was just onlookers. but we celebrated his life, and those children got to remember their grandfather. Readings could come from literature, from poetry, from reminiscences, from history books, from Holy Scripture. Hymns and music, we try to make those relevant in some way to the moment, to the person, to the values, to the history that's being shared. A ceremony might include military honors or like Masonic rites. Military honors are available to all veterans through the VA. They can play taps on a bugle. They can have a flag folding ceremony, a presentation of the colors. They can have a 21-gun salute. They can have a flyover. I mean, you make it what you need it to be. Some of our residents have been buried in Arlington Memorial Cemetery, but any cemetery or even here is an appropriate place for military honors. Where to take the body? It can be a graveside service or a columbarium. It can be on a farm, at a lake, at the sea, in the mountains. I'd like to just bring up a few of the different ways that we have memorialized people here at Crowsdale and elsewhere. I recently went to Texas for the funeral for my 34-year-old nephew, Joshua, and they were told no ties, no coats, and no wearing of black, that we were to come informal and hopeful. And I've never seen so many flowers for a service. I mean, it was hard to get the people in for all of the flowers that were around. That was the way they brought tribute. Flowers are not necessary. It's fine to tell people, instead of flowers, please, if you want to make a gift, make it to the things that I value. The Cancer Society, hospice, the Bird Sanctuary, the Benevolent Fund, and that's a good way to do it. We've seen the Queen's funeral and seen how much can go into that. We don't need to match that. My second cousin was a West Texas farmer and lawyer, and when he was buried on the family farm, everybody was to wear Western boots and blue jeans and come ready to dig and shovel. And the whole family gathered around and buried his wooden casket there on a hill on the farm. When Reverend Charles Mercer died and was memorialized here recently, he was 102 years old, and we had an entirely full chapel because other clergy came from all over this conference to honor him, and they stood up and each one offered a word of blessing. When Beulah Latta died, she who had helped to start the Social Security Administration had every jot and tittle filed and filled out and had written her complete obituary except for the end date to go at the top. And she gave us her service as she wanted it to be done. And it was a beautiful service in her local church, honoring her so well. When Blanche Ahrens died, her family said, we don't want something in the chapel. She wasn't a religious Jewish person, but we've got lots of stories to tell. So we put a circle of chairs in Ponder Auditorium, and they passed the mic around, and we laughed and we cried and we reminisced. And then they put music on and folks danced and ate shrimp and all kinds of other non-kosher foods. When Fritz Wong died, and here we are at the Fritz Wong stage, he was a professional musician and teacher, and it was a very small family service, but some of his former professional students came and gave tribute to him on the organ, and that was a way of honoring him. Joe Reese, as far as I know, has not yet had a memorial service, but some of you have asked, couldn't we gather in the Joe Reese garden and tell our stories and give thanks over his life? Of course we can. When Martha Rose Wilson died, her son and his twin daughters and his wife took parts of her ashes and drove on a family trip across North Carolina from the coast to the mountains and stopped at 7 locations that they remembered family vacations and had a little family ceremony as they portioned out some of her ashes there to remember happy family times and to bid her farewell. When COVID was rampant and people couldn't gather and people couldn't travel, we did a lot of Zoom funerals where we had people from all over the world come together and they could all talk and share and see each other online and tell their stories to each other. So whatever kind of ceremony suits the needs of the person, the needs of the family, and the value systems that are involved, we can make something work. Then what about after that? Well, some people want to have a reception for food because they want the stories to continue to circulate and say goodbye to their friends before they get on the road. So a visitation can happen before the ceremony or after. It can happen in the gathering space. It can happen at somebody's home, in somebody's apartment, or in here. There are 3 locations presently that you can share food with outsiders, and that's here in Facet, where we can be far enough away from each other that we can take off masks and eat in the presence of friends, family, and outsiders. The second one is the pub, and the third one is Sparks Park for an outdoor gathering, and we've done it in all of those places. I've also seen families gather in the private dining room or in a family home off-site or at Bullock's Barbecue or other favorite places like that. So yes, there is something to be said about breaking bread together and reminiscing and holding on to each other. Maybe I should pause at this point and see if there are questions relevant to this aspect before we close out the last of our presentation. You want to think about that? Yes. Speak loudly and I'll try to repeat.
I think I can speak loudly enough. Got my school teacher voice. Is it okay? Is it legal, I should say, to spread ashes anywhere you want to? Is there a legal or some kind of restriction on where you can spread ashes?
Is there a legal restriction on places you can spread ashes? I've asked that question of many different people and gotten many different answers. And the most common answer I've gotten is, I don't know anything. And we did what we did. And we did not try to do it in a large amount for fear of, whether it would disturb the natural habitat or whatever. But a spoonful here and there, I confess, might be on the ground we walk on at times. Please think about having some kind of a memorial service and let us honor you. Let us shine the light through your life. Let us tell the stories that have given us joy. Let us discover the amazing life that you've led that we haven't had time to learn about over the dinner table. Please tell your family that they will be glad for having honored you and shared you with the rest of us. Thank you. Kim.
Yeah, I could ask a couple of folks about whether you can spread ashes. Actually, somebody was saying about.
Somebody just asked if they could spread ashes here at Carolina Meadows. I'm sorry. anyways, here at Crowsdale Village. And I was told actually by Rebecca that that has happened in one instance. And I think that they just need to go to the higher ups and see if that's okay. So I think it depends on where you go. Duke Gardens, they will actually, you do have to get the right permissions if you wanted your ashes spread at Duke Gardens, that kind of thing. But I think you need to figure out who owns that land and if they're willing to allow that to happen. I wanted to just talk for a brief moment about something called destination funerals or celebrations of life. How many people here have heard about destination weddings? Yeah, why not do it for a funeral, right? Yeah, so there is this trend now actually to have folks actually take a trip, a planned trip centered around the memorial of somebody. Typically, you know, you're not inviting hundreds of people. It's a limited guest list, probably just close family, and choosing a nice location, a special location. Sometimes you may want to do financial planning if that's something that you think your family, your friends, your bridge group, your, I don't know, chair volleyball group would enjoy, to make sure that people can afford something like that. But it is something that is becoming more prevalent. And you know, if you are cremated or if there are ashes involved, you can request that they take those ashes on that trip with you, and maybe spread them here, there, or wherever. So just an interesting thought. What did you do? Got it. Oh, but I don't think that's the slide I wanted. There we go. Okay. Yeah, talk a little bit about writing your own obituary. As Lori had pointed out, we have had some folks here who have written their own obituary. The only thing they leave off is the date of which they died. So things to think about, making sure that you kind of point to your family tree, who's surviving, who deceased before, maybe some life accomplishments. And you can also talk in your obituary about maybe what life meant, words to describe you, some stories. And it's also a very good way to just kind of show your essence. I have two examples of self-written obituaries, and I'm going to have Caroline put them on our website. Good examples will make you chuckle and will make you laugh. But I think that actually showed the essence of that person. So it's just something to think about. Again, one of those things that if it's done, then your family doesn't have to worry about doing it. Just a quick joke for you. I know a few people like that. So talk a little bit about legacy letters. So writing legacy letters is actually a practice that's been around for many, many years. And basically involves, you know, writing your experiences, maybe your values, maybe stories that you then pass on to your surviving friends, families, loved ones, life lessons. It can also be expressing your hopes, your blessings, your any type of maybe even forgiveness or apologies and gratitude can be included in legacy letters. And it can also be a very good experience to write legacy letters, just a very self-fulfilling experience. So our last supplemental session here for this Death by Design is going to be on Wednesday, October 19th. And our own Jane Hoover is going to be in Roy's room from 2 to 3:30, kind of guiding people in how to write legacy letters and helping with that process. So if you're interested in that, We will have a sign-up sheet, as we said, on October 5th. Those sign-up sheets will go out for those 2 supplemental sessions. Whoops, oh boy. Okay, so we have another theatrical experience for you. And hopefully what we can do is kind of wrap up a lot of what we talked about in the past hour into this nice 6-minute video highlighting our talents here. So without further ado, here we go.
We don't have to do everything now, but we're just here to see if there's anything that we can do to help. Times like this, there can be 1,000 questions, so Lori and I are here if there's anything we can do to help. Oh, thank you so much. My mom did an amazing job of planning everything. It really allowed for my sister and me to just kind of be with her as she passed. That was a beautiful gift, and we really were able to just kind of enjoy that time with her. Yeah. That is a real treasure that your mom wrote. Yeah. She left this wonderful folder that actually outlined everything. And she did a really good job of talking to my sister about what she wanted. And she also had wonderful conversations with us about what she wanted at the time of her death. It really was a stress for the family to know what her wishes were. Absolutely, yes. For instance, she actually wanted her body cremated through aquamation. My sister and I didn't even know what that was, but because she was so ecologically conscious, she saw that as following her values in terms of what she wanted with her body. So she had it all set up, and we actually didn't have to do much, just make a phone call. Well, that is so much simpler. Good for you, and a way for her values to live on beyond her even. Yeah, well, when you get ready to think about the possibility of a memorial services in store, I would be more than happy to help with that. It could be here or elsewhere, but I do think it's important to have some kind of closure for your family. She actually had this list of people to contact in regards to her death, and make sure that they knew that she had died. She also had this that had warning on it for her. And I think that that's all sorts of scriptures and animals and songs that she liked, just some ideas for planning her memorial service. So that's certainly going to simplify our work. So when you're ready to talk about it and set a date and so forth, we'll be glad to publicize it. Some people like to show a photograph. Actually, she loved this photo, and she talked about this being one that she would want displayed. Well, we can display this photo on the memorial table. Okay, wonderful. For the memorial service, the photograph and the hymns and all that she's already suggested. We could also put in a obituary on the back when you get around to writing that, if you just get that to me. You're not going to believe this, but she actually wrote notes of her own obituary. Oh my. And it was amazing to actually read that. I knew she had accomplished a lot of things, but I don't think I would have thought to put those things in her obituary. So it's good to have her self. Yeah. Where she wants her obituary filed. So, I mean, it's easy to put so much in the soul for you. It is. And one thing that I didn't know she was gonna do was she left my sister and I, beautiful, she wrote this beautiful message about how much she loved to write for us, and how much she just loved life, and just more wishes for us as we travel down. Absolutely beautiful and touching. And she also read beautiful. Older, close to your heart forever. And one of the last wishes was for my sister and I to go to the hills. My mom always wanted to go to Italy, and she never made it there. So she left us a little Italy, and we're going to take some of her actions with us. All the planning that your mother did makes this a very special time for you and your sister. Absolutely. I know we'll miss Mom, but she left us earth with peacefulness and ignorance.
All right. Okay, maybe lights a little bit. I just want to point out that we highlighted in the video a beautiful, my mic, yes, it works. We highlighted in the video this folder. It's a little accordion folder. It's got about 7 pockets in it. And this one in particular, I've kind of labeled the pockets a little bit in accordance with our checklist that we have on our website. So you could actually divide the checklist out and put a section in each one of these accordion pockets, and then put the important papers. For instance, the first pocket has your advanced directives, your healthcare power of attorney, your living will, and then you can have your will and testament, your financial information, your obituary, your memorial service stuff, all of that kind of laid out in a nice, neat package. And Helen in the gift shop has been good enough to actually get some of these accordion little files. So if you are interested in looking at one closer and purchasing one, she is actually selling them in the gift shop. I will have these as well. I mean, you can come up and look at it afterwards if you want, but I'm also going to have these at our expo on Wednesday, as the navigators will have a couple of tables at that expo with some of the information that we've been talking about here. So just to let you know about that. I'll leave you with a couple of lasting thoughts. This was actually a poem. It was written by somebody, and that somebody said, Mr. Will said, "I want this handed out at my funeral." And it says, "And as I sit upon my cloud and look down at the earth, I'll watch you use my worldly goods for festival and mirth. And that will make me smile a smile and have a laugh quite hearty to hear you say, the booger's dead. Let's have ourselves a party." So I thought it was cute. Anyways, and then this one I could not resist. A cartoon at the bottom, it says, wanting to deliver his own eulogy, Dwayne hired a ventriloquist to perform at his memorial service. And as you can see, the ventriloquist is saying, "Wow, what a nice turnout. You guys are the best. I've had an exciting few days up in heaven." Very cute. Anyways, okay, so we've talked a lot about our expo on Wednesday. That will be coming up next. And next Friday, we will be doing a presentation addressing what can I do if I am ready to die with our VSED speakers coming in. And that pretty much concludes it. You have an evaluation tool. If you're interested in filling them out, that would be great. You can leave them on a table in the back, or we do have a basket by the Life Enrichment. And at this time, I would open it up for questions, comments, concerns. We've got. It's the same time as right now. 2 to 3:30 is the expo on Wednesday. We tried to keep all that consistent here in the Facet Auditorium and consistently between 2 to 3:30. Thoughts, comments, questions?
While that one's coming, let me just say that I meant to say, as we were talking about spouses and children and grandchildren, I know that some people are relying on an executor, a banker, a lawyer, a family friend, or someone else to handle your estate. And so the same things that I've said should apply to them, that if they could allow us to honor you with a ritual, that would be great. So pardon that oversight.
If someone who is not under hospice care, but is elderly, passes away suddenly, they're in their bed, in their room, the last thing one wants to do is call an ambulance or, God forbid, go to the hospital. So what happens in that circumstance? Someone's gonna have to make those decisions about whether there's gonna be a medical examiner involved, someone's gonna have to pronounce the death. Can you give us a little information on that?
Yeah, if an expected death is somebody who's typically on hospice. An unexpected death is somebody who typically isn't on hospice. And in that situation, Crowsdale Village is required, when there is a death, required to call 911. And if that person is deceased, the police will come. It will depend on who comes to the scene as to whether they think that it's something that they need to look into or not. But many times what I've seen is that they do go to the morgue and get examined. So the way to avoid that is, is planning it with hospice and doing it that way. She's running.
People really interested in organ tissue and body donation of 80 to 100.
The question being, are older organs of interest? And yes, some of them can be still harvested and have some life in them, but I understand your question, And I would ask the body donation folks that are coming on Wednesday that question. They may have a more technical answer than I do. Caroline, is that mic on?
This one?
Okay, it is. Any other questions? Oh.
Speaking of Caroline, she was the genius behind the camera and also did the editing. She is our producer.
Yeah, thank you. We are.
Is this a hand up?
I don't think so. We are running on up to 3:30. If you guys don't have any other questions, I really appreciate you coming. I hope to see y'all on the 5th, and I hope it's not raining.